noticed this kind of strange fault with the TFT on this bike. And it's nice and clear and really easy to read until I crack open the throttle with my right hand, and then it goes all blurry. Look, watch. Now I can read it again. Yeah, strange one that. I mean, people keep telling me in the comments not to buy Italian bikes because slightly dodgy electronics apparently. Anyway, welcome to CG Rides. And I've just bought a new Italian bike. And if you watched my last video that I published, I was enjoying my final ride on my previous Italian bike, the Moto Guzzi V7 850 Special. And I dropped a few hints, and we decided we'd have a little bit of a challenge, if you like, to guess the new bike. So you had to guess the manufacturer, the model, and just to make it really difficult, the colour as well. Many of you have taken part, so thank you very much for that. But nobody got it completely correct. Now, I did drop a few hints in that last video. First of all, I did say it was a Piaggio group bike. So realistically, it could only be a Moto Guzzi or an Aprilia. And there were lots of guesses for Moto Guzzi V100 Mandello or a Stelvio. And those were good guesses, and I like both of those bikes. I definitely think that one of those bikes is in my future. But I did also say this is my fun bike, because yes, sorry folks, I'm one of those really annoyingly lucky people who gets to have both a fun bike and a touring bike. The V7 850 was definitely scratching an itch when it came to fun bike. I've had some really fun rides on that. Not exhilarating rides, it being a retro classic, but it's been great fun exploring at a slower speed. And I've been really enjoying it. But I felt it was time for a change. So, those who picked up on those hints would naturally lean towards Aprilia. Obviously the Touareg is out for the same reasons, and that really leaves either the sports bikes or the Tuono. Now, I did say about the sports bikes, I was talking about my Fireblade, which is what I was on before the Moto Guzzi, and how I didn't enjoy it very much because it's uncomfortable. You've got to go faster to get the wind on your chest to just make it comfortable, like all sports bikes really. And it's hard to ride at those kind of speeds on British roads. There's just too much traffic everywhere, and you come home feeling stressed. That's not what I want from my fun bike. It's not about stress, it's supposed to be about having fun, funnily enough. So yeah, the RS models are out, and that really leaves the Tuono. So for everyone who guessed Tuono, well done. But a specific shout out now to the only one who got the model almost correct, and that is Paul Anthony Dutton. So you have my permission, sir, to engage smug mode, because you correctly guessed a Tuono V4. And I believe you commented to the effect that you were going to say the 660, but then you remembered I was talking about power, and so you went for the V4. So good guess. This is actually a V4 factory, and it is in the very fetching, I think they call it ultra gold colour scheme, so it's sort of black and white with gold touches, which I absolutely adore. Somebody else though did suggest a fairly close match, and that was DC Gull, so well done to you. You said Tuono 660 in factory in white. These were good guesses, and anybody who guessed the Tuono 660, well done to you, because that is the bike that I was going to replace the V7 850 with. So, although it's a smaller engine, it would have been an uplift in power. And I was looking for something specifically that had a little bit more capability when it comes to handling, and a little bit more performance. And the reason for that is that I'd got the V7 850 with all these dreams of exploring little villages and sedate rides on sunny Sunday afternoons, and I kind of scratched that itch. I did all of that, and I was going out on the bike and finding I was pushing on a little bit more. And the V7 850 can do that, absolutely. In fact, it's very good, as I've said in my previous review videos. But the roads in this country are not great at the moment. You know, the surfaces aren't brilliant, so I wanted a more quality suspension. And when you're sort of going fast like that, you want better brakes as well with your better suspension, and perhaps a little bit more performance and slightly more focused handling. And I felt really I wanted a tamer sports bike, so I actually started off looking at the RS 660, which I was going to go for that ridiculous acidy colour, which does look really good. And I think someone actually might have commented that bike. Yeah, I was actually considering it. Then I moved to the Tuono because I thought, why wouldn't you want to have a more comfortable riding position, have basically all of the performance and the focus and the good suspension and everything else, but enjoy a comfortable riding position. Makes sense to me. That's why these so-called super nakeds are super popular. And if you're going to do that, why not consider the factory version with the better suspension on? So that's kind of where my decision-making process was going. But I wasn't really taken with any of the colour choices. And I just happened to be browsing on eBay and having a look at what's available. And I saw this bike come up. It's a new bike. I bought it new from a dealer on the other side of the country. And I didn't test ride it, I just walked blind. I'll come back to that, because possibly not the most sensible thing in the world to do. But they were offering such a mega deal on it. It was well under list price. And I fell in love with the colour. So I made the inquiry and they offered me a not horrific price on my V7 850 special. I just had to do the deal. It was more than I wanted to spend. I ended up financing a little bit of it. But it's a minuscule monthly payment and I'll pay it off within a year. And also, as I've spoken about before on the channel, it's kind of good to buy your bike on finance because you get a bit of extra protection, especially if you're doing distance selling, you know, if you're distance buying, sorry, if you're buying without seeing the thing first. It's good to have the finance company behind you, so if anything goes wrong you can complain about it. It's something that I wished I'd done with my V7 850 when I had the problems with that. I digress. I spent more than I wanted to, but I don't regret it at all. You might be thinking, what on earth is this guy playing at? One moment he's on a retro classic, and the next he's on this basically naked sports bike with some obscene amount of horsepower, more than double what was in the V7 850. Does that make any sense at all to any rational human being? Well, I think it does. I think it makes a lot of sense. So what I'm going to do in this video is just explain my reasonings, which may also just be me justifying my outrageous purchase, as we are wont to do, of course. But let me just tackle this junction. Of course, the moment I arrive, there's a big stream of traffic. I guess that is one of the joys of a bike like this. It's got all that performance I could just tear off. But let's be sensible, because I'm also talking to you guys with the camera, so that's taking some of my attention. So I tend to ride a bit slower when I'm doing that. Lots of traffic out today because it's a Saturday, and as you can see there's this mysterious yellow orb in the sky, and the sky is some weird blue colour. Very unusual for Britain. Dry roads as well, what about that? Which is kind of a good thing, because this bike is fitted with tyres that have what I would call a token gesture of grip. I would not want to be riding this in the rain, that's for sure. Now, I've actually had this bike for a few months now. I'm quite slow at getting the videos up. And this is actually the second time I've recorded the video, because I went out and my GoPro crashed. I was so angry with it. It's let me down a few times now. So I've swapped over to the DJI Osmo, which seems to be working better. Let me know what you think of the quality. And I've done, as you might be able to see, 931 miles so far. So it's already had its first service, and I've enjoyed every single one of those miles. This is an amazing bike. But why go from the retro classic to the brutal super naked? You know, that doesn't make any sense on the surface of it. But just remember, I came off of a Fireblade onto that Moto Guzzi V7, so I'm not a stranger to fast bikes or sports bikes. And so for me it does make perfect sense. But I was trying to distill this in my mind, and really when you're buying a bike, and I've had something like 25 bikes, I think something like that, since I passed my test, and lots of different bikes, and I basically like all of them. Now some people, they have a very specific like. They'll only like retro style, like my dad. He loves a retro classic, right way up forks, round headlight, traditional bike. And I totally get that. Some of us, we have an affinity with a particular brand. One of my friends, it's got to be Yamaha, or he's not really interested. And I guess I get that as well. But for me, I'm not like that. I don't mind trying out different brands, different things, and I'm quite happy with different styles of bike. I think all of the biking experiences are fantastic, whichever you choose to have. And it's good to experience them all. So I'm trying to do that. I'm a petrol head at the end of the day. This is my hobby. So yeah, I change my bike regularly, and I try to experience all of these different types of bike. So for me, when it comes to buying a bike, there are three things that I've learned are important for me, and this might work for you as well. But the first thing is the looks of the bike. If the bike doesn't look good, if it doesn't stir your soul or make you excited in some way when you open the garage door, what's the chance you're actually going to get out on it and go and ride the thing? You want to get off your bike and have to give that last admiring glance over your shoulder. That's important. And we can't all achieve that, because maybe you're not in the fortunate position like I am, where you can have two bikes. And you've got to have a one-size-fits-all, and that means you have to make compromises, whichever way you look at it. But you still want to buy the one that looks the best, don't you? You want to buy the one that excites you. You're spending all this money. It's a very personal thing. It's more personal than a car, I think, a motorcycle. Most motorcyclists are enthusiasts, enjoy riding and motoring. So you want to have something that looks good. I think lots of different bikes look good for different reasons. Now I can look at the V7 850 Special and I can really appreciate the beauty of that bike, because it is a fantastic design. It's gorgeous. It's air cooled, so there's no radiator or gubbins. It's just a quintessential classic motorcycle, really stylish. And I could look at something like this, the Aprilia V4 Tuono. To me, this is beautiful as well. I think they've done a really good job with the design. I love the front end of it, and I'll show more details when I do my first impressions review and a full review later on. But I love the fact that, for instance, there's no indicators sticking out at the front. They're part of the LED light array. And it's just little touches like that. It looks great. I love the fins that are on the back. Because realistically, are you ever going to take a pillion on a bike like this? Probably not. I haven't even bothered insuring it for pillions. I have a pillion seat that replaces the sharp fins. Yeah, the pillion doesn't have to sit on those things, by the way. It swaps over, but the seat's not very big and it's very hard. I wouldn't want to sit on it, because I'm not going to subject anyone else to that. So I like the look of this bike. I like the styling. And something else is that it's dripping with the bling. You've got the Öhlins EC2 suspension, so it's electronic here at the front with the forks. I love the gold forks and gold tubes as well on the forks, very nice. You've got electronic Öhlins at the rear as well, and there's an Öhlins steering damper if you care to look down the front of the bike. Then you've got these lovely big Brembo brakes. That's the right name to have on your bike for brakes. You've got a Brembo cylinder up here as well. Just looks good. And then I've gone for the Akrapovic exhaust, and that's in this lovely black carbon finish. It sounds incredible. I mean, these bikes sound unbelievably good with a standard exhaust, but the Akrapovic really does sound good, and it looks the part. It's the right name again on the bike, and having the right names in the right places, well, that adds to the visual appeal, I would say, of a bike like this. So it might be a subjective thing. This might not be your taste, especially I know the white and gold is probably quite divisive. Not everyone's going to like that, but we all like different things. For me, this is beautiful. And of course, because I'm a total muppet, I went out and bought a new helmet to match the bike with a gold visor and gold trim pieces. It looks great. It's a Nolan. I'll pop a picture up on the screen. Obviously I'm not wearing it at the moment. I'm looking like a total idiot wearing an adventure helmet, but it is of course the one that's set up for my cameras and microphone. Go, we're just coming through the little town of Honiton. We're going to go out towards the coast. Hopefully the roads aren't too busy. And as we ride through the town, let me tell you about the second important thing when you're buying a bike, for me. And that is the overall performance of the machine. So what it's like to sit on. What's the comfort like, the riding position. When I say performance, I'm not necessarily just talking about engine performance, because you know, at the end of the day, a motorbike is always going to have pretty good performance, whatever you choose to buy. Lots of people dithering there at the roundabout, so I thought I'd just go for it. I mean, obviously this bike has a huge amount of performance, which I guess is part of the appeal. It's way beyond my capabilities, that's for sure. I won't scratch the surface of what's possible with this bike, but I didn't buy it for the outrageous speed. I bought it for the other aspects of performance. And this is difficult to explain. Maybe I could try and explain it this way. If you go out and buy a bike that is designed to do 150 miles per hour, let's say. I think this one will probably do more than that, but let's just say 150 miles per hour. And it's designed for that, so it's got to have the brakes to do that, it's got to have the suspension, it's got to have the engine obviously, but it's got to have all those other things as well to be able to travel at that speed. Now compare that, if you will, to a bike like say the V7, which I don't think you'd really want to go much more than a ton on that thing. So let's just say it's designed to be good for a ton. So the brakes and suspension are all designed for that. Now if you're rolling along then at 50 miles per hour on the V7, for argument's sake, then you're using half of the design capability of the machine. But if you roll along at 50 miles an hour on say this bike, maybe you're using a third of the design capability of the machine. Hopefully that makes sense. It makes sense to me. It probably has no scientific basis whatsoever, but in my mind it kind of makes sense. I'm using less of the available capability of this machine, so I'm well within its limits, and that means I'm safer. Maybe you don't agree with me. Let me know in the comments if that logic makes sense to you. Something else that this bike has, of course, is all of the electronics packages, the lean angle sensors, the ABS that's sensitive to cornering, and all sorts of other things. And I do like that kind of stuff. I mean, I've had bikes that don't have that. My Fireblade was the last model they made without even ABS. There was no traction control, no riding modes, no ABS. And I was absolutely fine on that bike. I never had any squeaky moments on it. Maybe I never got anywhere near the limits, and maybe that's kind of my point. Again, I enjoyed that bike. It was good, and if you're on a windy road, you often can't do much more than 60 to 80 anyway. You sort of open it up on the straights and you've got to slow down for the corners. So as long as the bike can do that comfortably, what's more important is the handling and the stopping power, to me anyway. So all of those things come together to deliver you an experience. So take that Fireblade for example. The experience was I was uncomfortable all the time, because you need wind blast on a sports bike to prop you up and keep you comfortable. At least I do. So I got off it with a sore neck, sore arms, sore everything. And you're always seeking to go faster to get to that comfortable position, and that means more overtakes in the traffic, and that means that you get more stressed out. That's what I was saying earlier. On this bike, as you can see, I'm just rocking up this hill here at 30 miles an hour, just over, and I'm perfectly comfortable. Got no immediate desire to go faster. Can't anyway, there's a car in front. So I'm comfortable at this speed. I'm not being pushed to go faster. So whilst this has the same kind of horsepower and performance as something like a Fireblade, it's a completely different experience by virtue of the riding position. And this is where performance, for me, that covers all of those things. Performance is about the experience of the bike, the overall experience. What's it like going cornering? What's it like when you need to stop quickly? What's the comfort like? And also, how is the acceleration? You know, that does factor into it, obviously. If you get that bit right, then after a ride, not only will you be looking over your shoulder longingly at the bike because you love the look of it, you'll be happy, you'll have enjoyed the ride, and that again will make you want to ride it more. So it's important to get that right. And going back to what I said in the beginning, buying a bike unseen without test riding it is probably a pretty risky proposition. In my case, I watched a lot of reviews from testers that I really trust to formulate an opinion. And because in the UK, if you buy like that, under the distance selling regulations, I can return the bike. I have all sorts of options available to me. So I figured I would go for it because it was so much cheaper. I mean, literally close to $3,000 cheaper than the local dealer was advertising the overall package. So I was happy to take the risk because of that. I've done it before. Sometimes it's worked out, sometimes it hasn't. This time it did. I'm absolutely delighted with the bike. Anyway, let's get on to the third thing, and that's the noise it makes. The soundtrack to your ride is really important, and that's comprised of a couple of things. Yeah, it's the engine and the exhaust. Now some bikes, like a Kawasaki Ninja for example, I had a ZX7R, that was a great bike, and that was all about the induction noise, so you wanted to really open it up to hear that howl. But other bikes, like the Guzzi for example, that's just got this lovely lumpy V-twin. It's got real character to it, and a dry clutch as well, if I recall correctly. And the noise it makes, that's quite iconic. And the exhaust was just about loud enough to hear, so you could enjoy that. It made a good soundtrack to the ride. And different engines do a different job of that. This has got a V4, and I love V4s. I have had a couple. I had a VFR 750, and I had a VFR 1200. Those are the two V4s I've had, and I like them. What I like about a V4 is you get some of the torquey characteristics of a V-twin, and you get some of the screaming characteristics of an inline four. A lot like a triple, I suppose. It's that nice middle ground. But it's got more top end than a triple. And this bike, the engine is insane. The performance, it's immediate. And to be honest, I was a little bit scared of it for the first couple hundred miles whilst I was getting used to it, but now I'm perfectly happy. I haven't taken it out of the tour riding mode. There's plenty enough power here, I don't need any more. And I'm just enjoying it. It does say race down here on the TFT, just above the gear position indicator now. And that's because it's got a special map loaded for the Krapovich exhaust. It's the official dealer map. And they did supply the original exhaust with the bike as well, so I've got that too. The sound this bike makes, that exhaust hops and it spits, and it's just not going to come across on this video, but I will try to do a sound video and mount a microphone back there to try and capture some of the soundtrack, because it's just amazing. It's just loud enough with the baffles in. It's just loud enough. Any louder and it would be verging on annoying after a long ride. There's something else I didn't say is about comfort as well. I've done a 3-hour ride on this bike, and other than stopping for fuel, which is something you do a lot of on a V4 Tuono. Anyway, 3 hours, no problem. I felt fresh, felt comfortable. So I'm actually thinking I could use this bike for a bit of touring, a bit of overnight action. But I've got a baggage solution using some Krieger tail packs, and they do a specific kit that attaches to the pillion seat that I've got. So I'm going to do a video about that and we'll try it out. I've got a couple of different sizes of tail pack, so I'm keen to give that a go. I've also bought a tail tidy because, well, it looks rubbish. It's the only thing I don't like about the bike, I think, in the way it looks, is the usual plastic gubbins. And I've got a very nice tail tidy that uses the existing indicators and lights. You don't have to cut any cables or do anything damaging to the bike. It bolts on in the OEM position. It's made by a British company. I'll do a video on that. And I'm also going to do a video on paddock stand because I'm back to chain lubing again. The V7 was a shaft drive, this is a chain obviously, so you'd have to be some kind of masochist to put a centre stand on one of these bikes. So I need a paddock stand, so I bought one of those, and I bought a dolly stand so that once the bike's up on it you can kind of unlock the wheels and manoeuvre it around in the garage. And oh yeah, that's really cool, so I'll do a video review of that as well. I'll do a first impressions review of the bike. I just want to get a few more miles under me on a few different roads, maybe get a slightly longer trip done before I do that. I feel like I need to use it in a few more scenarios before I'm qualified to give a final opinion on it. Anyway, that's about all I've got to say about this bike for now. Maybe you think it's an odd choice, but hopefully you can kind of make sense of my reasoning. Yes, it's more bike than I'm ever going to need, but it qualifies on my 3 criteria. So I don't care about all of the speed that I'm probably never going to use because I'm just not a good enough rider. What I care about is the looks, the performance, that comfort, the handling, which is honestly, it's astonishing. This Olin stuff is absolutely brilliant. And the brakes, phenomenal. Comfort, lovely. It is an ideal compromise. If you're into sports bikes but you can't handle the discomfort anymore, then definitely look at a Super Naked. It's all of the fun. At road legal speeds, you really don't need the difference that the fairing makes. And arguably, without the fairing, it makes it more fun when you're going a bit slower. Of course, with this bike, you could put a larger screen on it and get a little bit more wind deflection. This one does seem to have an annoying habit of dragging in insects right in the middle and then throwing them up onto the middle of my helmet. A number of times I've been out riding and within moments get some dead insect massacred in the middle of my visor, right in the middle of my view. It hasn't happened today. In fact, I haven't got any flies on my visor. When does that ever happen? So finally, I just want to come back to the whole mention of the Mandello and the Stelvio, because those are really good suggestions, but I see those bikes as being more suitable for touring. You can get full luggage for both of those, hard luggage. I did inquire at SP Motorcycles, and for the V100, which I was seriously considering recently, it's about 1,500 quid for the rack and top box with a backrest and matching luggage, all in the matching colour, which is about what other manufacturers charge, the same as BMW and Triumph and Co. They all seem to be about the same. Yes, of course you can get third-party luggage for less, but if you want that original OEM look, it's worth spending a bit more. Anyway, having only recently bought this bike, I've found myself in a rather difficult situation of needing to change my other bike, my touring bike. And I've had that for just over 18 months. It's an R1250 RT, which you might have seen if you're a regular on the channel. And I've done some mileage on it. In fact, I've probably done more mileage in Europe than I have in the UK on that bike. I've had some amazing tours through the mountains, and it's a phenomenal bike. But I've come into a slight problem, and that is that I've lost a lot of weight recently for health reasons, and I just struggle with it. I'm pulling my back out, just getting it out of the garage. I've lost my upper body strength. I need to work on that, obviously, but it's going to take a bit of time. Here's the summer already, and I don't want to miss out on touring. I'd be happy to take this bike, as I've said, for an overnight somewhere, if I could find somewhere safe to leave it, because obviously it's quite a desirable thing for thieves to take. That's probably the downside to it. But there's no point in having a bike that you can't enjoy, and I'm struggling with the RT on my own, let alone with my wife on the back. So unfortunately I've decided it has to go, and I know that I'm going to take a financial plum kicking on that, which is distressing. I'm trying not to think about it, and I don't really have any money left to spend on bikes. I've kind of put everything into this one, so it's a bit of a rough situation to be in, but I just can't handle the bike anymore. So I have been looking at adventure and touring bikes as a result of that, and that's why I was considering the Mandello and asking questions about luggage on that, and also the Stelvio. The problem is that the RT, that's a 20 plate, and the amount of money I'm going to get for it, I just need to find something that I can almost do a swap for, almost a straight swap. If I've got to add a little bit, I can manage that, but it's got to be cheap, basically, to change. And the Stelvio, it's too new, so there's no used ones around. I'm not a massive fan of the colour choices at the moment either on that bike. It's out of the question anyway, it's too expensive, especially by the time you put the luggage on. And that rules out a lot of other bikes as well. I did have a look at a Tiger 900 GT Pro. I thought it would be a nice bike, but I just can't do it. There are used ones available, but they seem overpriced to me in comparison to other things. So yeah, then I think in Mandello, and I can't really justify the S model, and some of you thought I might go for that as a fun bike, and I can see why you might think that. I couldn't justify that in addition to this, you know, two bikes with all of the amazing OLEDs goodies on. Oh dear, road closed, what does that mean? Well, it means the road's closed, obviously, you divot. Where is it closed? That's the question. How far can we get? Oh, that's annoying. What was I saying? The V100S with all the electronic suspension and everything. I'm not a massive fan of the colour of the S. Yeah, I think it looks really nice in pictures, but it doesn't look as good in person, I have to say. Not for me. That's just my personal subjective opinion. Oh dear. Oh no, someone's hurt themselves, haven't they? It's been a crash. Right, we'll turn it around. Oh, I hope they're okay. It's horrible, isn't it, when you see that? This is a fast road as well. Sometimes people are too quick on it. I do like the colours of the standard Mandello. I love the white, but would I want to have a white Mandello and a white Aprilia? I'm not sure about that. And I like the red as well. In fact, I like the red the most with the gold wheels and everything. I think that's really, really nice looking. Not as keen on the flashes. You know, it's got those wind deflectors on the tank, and then they paint a flash behind it. Let's have a go down here towards Branscombe. I think there might be another way out of Branscombe that we could take. Yeah, so on the white bike, you get these red flashes, which look really good, and it's just a nice little touch of colour on the white finish. But on the red bike, the flashes are the same bright red colour, so you get these two different shades of red, and I don't like that. I'd still have one, because there are plenty available on the used market, and I could buy the new luggage, and the price was about at the right point, so I was considering that as a replacement for the RT. And I probably would have ended up doing it if SP Motorcycles had had a salesperson in on the day I visited. I took this bike down for its first service, and there was no one there to talk to about it. So for now, I don't have a Moto Guzzi, but I would like to get another one. I've had the V85, And that, actually, I would consider that as a touring bike, but I don't like any of the current colours. And in fairness, I had one, and I got rid of it because my wife thought she'd be uncomfortable on it. And we thought we'd be just much more comfortable on an RT. We've got some interesting content coming on that. Anyway, that's all for another day, and I'm conscious this video's probably got really long. My son Ben edits my videos, and he'll probably be in deep despair by now, having to listen to his dad rabbit on for this long. So anyway, there's my thoughts and reasonings on this lovely Aprilia. Thanks for joining me for the ride. Let me know what you think of it in the comments. What do you think about my 3 principles for buying bikes? If you got your own sort of method for choosing a bike, let me know in the comments section. I look forward to reading them. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, I'd appreciate that very much. Every little helps and all that. And maybe give the video a thumbs up to let YouTube know that I did an alright job. Or a thumbs down if you think I suck. I mean, that's fair enough too. I'll see you again next time. CG Rides. Not possible.
That is fantastic.
Thank you, mate.
I wouldn't go that way, it's gridlocked.
Is it?
You can't get behind the bike or the car, hopeless.
Alright.
Spinning there.
Thank you. Right, turning round again. Oh dear. Glad this is a light bike.